You just need to fit with one person out of all the 8 billion people on the planet to have a successful relationship. So why then would you try and make yourself appealing to a majority of people when you could instead be trying to make yourself appealing to that one person who, in theory, is somewhere out there? You just need to find him or her. It's 2026. Evolutionary psychology has blown onto the scene. You see it in most major podcasts. You hear it in the streets. It has really spread out and taken the world by storm. But now there are entire ideologies or idea networks that are based on evolutionary psychology. And with that comes certain risks. The people I know who are into evolutionary psychology, I think, are drawn to it because they tend to be people who don't always have the most success with dating and courtship. And I consider myself one of those people. So no judgment here. Evolutionary psychology, I think, speaks to people who have a more difficult time in these realms because it is a science. And science means general truths that are applicable in most situations, if not all situations. If I drop a ball, it's always going to fall down because the weight of the earth is roughly constant and the weight of the ball is roughly constant. And those two things will roughly be constant for a very long time. The promise of evolutionary psychology is similar. It doesn't matter which woman or which man you are looking at, they're going to be roughly similar. They're going to be the same. They're going to have similar instincts based not on how they were raised or their individual particular tastes, but rather based on their biological configuration, based on their sex. The issue is that evolutionary psychology is not as secure a science as physics or biology or chemistry are. The subject matter of evolutionary psychology is not as predictable and uniform as the subject matter of physics or biology or chemistry. There is variation in the preferences of human females and human males, just as there is variation in the preferences for food that people have. For this reason, evolutionary psychology has the same weaknesses as a science does. You can imagine a science experiment where we try and figure out what the best potato is. And we take russet potatoes and Yukon Gold potatoes and the purple potatoes. We steam them all, and then we add lots of salt, and then we mash them. We add cream and butter. We put them in front of people's faces, and they try each of them. After trying them all, 20% prefer the purple potatoes, 50% prefer russet, and the other 30%, I believe, prefer Yukon Gold. Can we conclude that russet potatoes are therefore objectively the best potatoes? The answer is no, we cannot, because you may go to a different place, like Nairobi, do the same experiment and come up with different results because people's tastes change. But you see how the subject matter of a roast potato study or a mashed potato study isn't exactly great for science? The same goes with evolutionary psychology, where you may in fact be identifying general truths about the sexes, which is a lot better than having a blank slate view of the sexes. But it doesn't apply to everyone. And that is really a big thing to remember if you are someone looking to date in order to find a husband or wife. You don't want to be attractive to the average male or the average female. You want to be attractive, maximally attractive, to the person who would find you maximally attractive and who you find maximally attractive. You just need to fit with one person out of all the 8 billion people on the planet to have a successful relationship. So why then would you try and make yourself appealing to a majority of people when you could instead be trying to make yourself appealing to that one person who, in theory, is somewhere out there? You just need to find him or her. Just imagine you were looking at whether women prefer beards or not, whether women find beards attractive on men. And you saw a study and it said 75% of women prefer that men have beards, 25% prefer that men do not have beards. You may see this study and think, oh man, I'm going to start growing my beard out so that I am attractive to women. But this might be a bad idea, because what if your perfect person was more likely to be found in the group of women who found beards to be unattractive than the group of women who found beards to be attractive? If you end up trying to become attractive to the average woman, you're going to end up becoming less attractive to the ideal woman. You're playing for the average when you should be playing for the best. That's one thing. And then the second thing is, even if you see a conclusion from evolutionary psychology, which again is a science, you may not know how to apply it properly in your life or what weight you should give the finding in your life. For example, take that hypothetical study that we were discussing earlier. If it is the case that it may be the case that 3 out of 4 women find beards attractive, but it may matter a lot more that men find beards to be intimidating than it does that women find beards attractive. Maybe what's going on is that the men who have beards are those who intimidate and gain respect from other men, bringing them to the top of their hierarchies, thus letting the women see that these are the top pick of men that men themselves would agree exist at the top of that hierarchy. And so it's just it's a consequence of male on male respect for the beard, that the beard ends up being something that signals attractiveness. It may not actually be the fact that women find beards attractive. So you may be better off taking photos of your haul from fishing or your truck than you are from taking a photo of you in a beard, because your conclusions from one study just may be misjudged. So this then leads to the question of, how ideally should you be living your life? And I have to say, I'm no expert here, but I think that you would be better off pursuing the things that you are interested in and that you find meaningful. And I think you're better off pursuing the best version of yourself that you think would be everything you could be, and putting that out there so that other people know about it, because you will naturally attract people who are into exactly who you are in consequence.